They left you like you never mattered, and now you see them smiling with someone new. It hurts, doesn't it? You keep asking yourself, what did I do wrong? But here's the truth most people never realize. The narcissist didn't actually want the new person. They only wanted the reaction they'd get from you. That sudden replacement wasn't love. It was strategy. They needed to prove to themselves that they still had power, that they could still control the story. But what happens when that new supply doesn't give them the same energy you once did? What happens when their illusion starts to crumble? Stay with me till the end, because by the time this video finishes, you'll see exactly why they left, why they keep repeating the same cycle, and why you were never the problem. You were the power they couldn't keep. And before we begin, take a second to subscribe if you're ready to heal, to rise above manipulation, and to finally understand the truth they never wanted you to see. Leave a comment below if you've ever felt replaced. This might just be the closure you've been waiting for.
They left you for someone else, fast. No goodbye, no closure, just silence. One day they were promising forever, and the next, they were posting pictures with someone new. You sit there in disbelief, wondering how someone who once looked at you like you were their world could move on without even blinking. That silence becomes louder than any argument you ever had. It echoes in your mind, twisting into questions that won't stop. Was I not enough? Did I imagine everything? How could they replace me so easily? But the truth is, what you're feeling right now, that shock, that confusion, is exactly what the narcissist wanted. Their sudden disappearance, their cold detachment, it's not a mistake. It's a calculated move. They want you to leave you stunned, doubting yourself, questioning your worth, because in your confusion, they still have control. A narcissist thrives on emotional chaos. Your pain feeds their ego. They want you to replay every memory, to wonder where it all went wrong, to feel small and forgotten. But what you don't see at first is that their new beginning with someone else isn't real. It's not a love story. It's a performance. They move fast, not because they found something better, but because they can't be alone. They can't sit with the emptiness inside them, so they rush to fill it with anyone who will give them attention. The new person isn't special. They're just the next source of supply, the next person to admire, believe, and serve the illusion. When the narcissist leaves you, it's not about you at all. It's about them needing to escape the reflection you hold up. You've seen behind the mask. You've seen their lies, their manipulations, their patterns. And once you start noticing the truth, they panic. They can't stand to lose control, so they create a scene, a distraction, a replacement. To them, leaving isn't the end. It's an act of power. They want you to see them with someone new, to feel that sting of being replaced, because your pain confirms their importance. It's their way of saying, look what you lost. Look how easily I can move on. But behind that facade, there's no peace. The same emptiness follows them everywhere they go. They can dress it up with smiles, romantic gestures, and fake happiness online. But deep down, they know the truth. They're running from themselves. Every relationship they start begins the same way and ends the same way, with chaos, control, and emotional destruction. And here's what you need to understand. They didn't replace you. They repeated you. The story is the same, just with a different face. You were never the problem. You were simply the mirror that reflected back their truth, and they couldn't handle that. So they left. Not because you weren't enough, but because you saw too much. And that's the silent shock, realizing that their leaving wasn't a loss at all. It was your liberation.
The illusion of replacement.
is one of the most painful parts of dealing with a narcissist. When they move on so quickly, it's natural to think they've found someone better, someone who gives them what you couldn't. But that's not the truth. Narcissists don't replace you with a better person. They replace you with a distraction. What they're chasing isn't love or connection, it's validation. They need someone new to reflect back the image they've carefully built, an image that says, "I'm desirable, I'm powerful, I'm in control." The new person becomes nothing more than a mirror for their ego. At first, that illusion looks convincing. The photos, the smiles, the over-the-top affection, it all seems real. You see them showering the new supply with the same words they once said to you, the same gestures that once made you feel special. But what you're really seeing is a performance. The narcissist is reenacting the beginning of your relationship, copying the same script, the same lines, the same fake charm. It's not new love, it's recycled manipulation. They're trying to prove something, not to the new person, but to you, and most of all, to themselves. They want to appear as though they've upgraded, that they're happier without you. But deep down, they're terrified that losing you means losing control. The truth is, narcissists don't know how to love. They only know how to attach themselves to people who can feed their sense of importance. The moment someone stops providing that admiration or questions their behavior, the illusion starts to crumble. So they look for the next person who will play along, someone who hasn't yet seen the cracks in their mask. To the outside world, it seems like they've found love again. But it's just another distraction from the emptiness they refuse to face. The new supply doesn't have what you lacked. They simply don't know what you already learned. They haven't experienced the silent treatment, the gaslighting, or the emotional roller coaster yet. They're still under the spell you once were. But the narcissist's pattern never changes. Once the excitement fades and reality sets in, the same manipulation begins. The cycle always repeats. Because the narcissist isn't capable of real emotional growth. So when you see them with someone new, don't let that image deceive you. It's not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their need. They didn't replace you because you were unworthy. They replaced you because you were aware. And that awareness is something they can't stand. You broke the illusion, and now they need another person to help them rebuild it. The illusion of replacement is powerful, but temporary. Eventually, the same story unfolds again. The same charm, the same chaos, the same emptiness. Because no matter who stands beside them, the narcissist is still alone inside. The truth about the new supply is harsh, but freeing once you understand it. To a narcissist, people aren't partners, lovers, or companions. They're batteries, sources of emotional energy, admiration, and attention. When one battery runs low, when you stop reacting, stop giving, or start seeing through their mask, they don't recharge it with empathy or love. They simply grab another. It's not about connection, it's about consumption. Narcissists feed off the emotional charge they get from others. Your joy, your pain, your confusion, your devotion. Every tear, every compliment, every apology fuels them. And when that energy runs out, they start hunting for the next source without hesitation or guilt. That's what the new supply really is, an energy source, not a soulmate. To the narcissist, the truth about the new supply is harsh, but freeing once you understand it. To a narcissist, people aren't partners, lovers, or companions. They're batteries, sources of emotional energy, admiration, and attention. When one battery runs low, when you stop reacting, stop giving, or start seeing through their mask, they don't recharge it with empathy or love. They simply grab another. It's not about connection. It's about consumption. Narcissists feed off the emotional charge they get from others, your joy, your pain, your confusion, your devotion. Every tear, every compliment, every apology fuels them. And when that energy runs out, they start hunting for the next source without hesitation or guilt. That's what the new supply really is, an energy source, not a soulmate. To the narcissist, the new person represents fresh admiration, a new audience for their stories, and someone who hasn't yet noticed the manipulation hiding beneath the charm. In the beginning, the narcissist mirrors everything the new supply desires. They pretend to be understanding, funny, deep, or even spiritual. Whatever persona keeps the attention flowing. It feels intoxicating for the new person, just as it once did for you. But behind that performance is a hollow core that can never be filled. The narcissist's need for validation is endless. It's like pouring water into a bucket full of holes. No matter how much you give, it will never be enough. And once the new supply stops worshiping them or starts asking real questions, the cycle begins again. The idealization fades, criticism creeps in, and the same pattern of control and devaluation repeats. The narcissist begins to withdraw emotionally, creating distance while searching for their next battery. Meanwhile, you're left watching from the outside, thinking they've moved on to something better. But what you're actually seeing is just another chapter of the same exhausting story. Different face, same script. The narcissist doesn't fall in love. They attach themselves to anyone who can keep their ego charged. And because they lack genuine self-awareness, they can't sustain real intimacy or growth. The new supply isn't lucky. They're next in line for the same emotional drain you once endured. Understanding this truth can change everything. Once you see that you weren't replaced by someone better, just by someone new, the pain begins to lose its grip. You realize that the narcissist's pattern has nothing to do with your worth. It's about their constant hunger to feel powerful and admired. They can switch people like changing batteries, but they can't escape the emptiness that drives them. So the next time you see them smiling with someone else, remember, that person isn't your competition. They're just holding the energy source for now. And when that charge runs out, the narcissist will move again, chasing the same illusion they always do. But you're free to stop being a battery and start being a whole person again.
They didn't leave because they found happiness. They left because you started seeing through their mask. That's the truth most people miss. Narcissists don't walk away because they've suddenly discovered real love somewhere else. They walk away because their illusion no longer works on you. The moment you begin to notice the lies, the manipulation, the inconsistencies in their words and actions, you become dangerous to them. You stop feeding the fantasy. You stop reacting to their mind games. And for a narcissist, that's the ultimate loss of control. They can't handle someone who sees the truth, so they escape before the mask fully cracks. What looks like rejection is actually fear. Their fear of exposure. You were never meant to see behind the curtain. In their world, image is everything. They build their identity on how others perceive them. Charming, confident, irresistible. But once you start asking questions, once you stop believing the act, they know their power is slipping. So they rewrite the story before you can tell it. They'll paint you as the problem, the crazy one, the ungrateful one, just to protect their fragile ego. And to make it believable, they'll rush to find a new person, a prop to prove to themselves and to the world that they were never the issue. Leaving you wasn't about finding joy. It was about maintaining control of the narrative. Narcissists can't stand losing emotional dominance, and nothing threatens them more than someone who stops reacting. When you stopped explaining yourself, when you stopped begging them to see your worth, you took away their power, and instead of reflecting on their actions, they ran toward the next distraction, a new admirer who still believes in their charm. It's easier for them to start fresh than to face themselves. Deep down, they know the truth. The same pattern will follow them no matter who they choose next. But facing that would mean admitting that the problem isn't you or anyone else. It's them. And that's something a narcissist will never do. So they leave, not out of peace, but out of panic. They can't heal because healing requires humility, and humility feels like death to their ego. So when you wonder why they could walk away so easily, remember, they didn't leave because they outgrew you. They left because you outgrew the illusion. You stopped being the reflection they needed to feel important. You began to see their emptiness, and instead of changing, they fled from it. But what they'll never admit is that your awakening, your strength, is what truly ended their power. They may have walked away, but you were the one who actually broke free.
When you stop reacting, they lose control. When you stop explaining, their power begins to die. That's what terrifies a narcissist the most: exposure. They spend their entire lives carefully building an image, charming, intelligent, confident, even spiritual at times. It's a mask crafted to hide the deep insecurity and emptiness within. As long as you're confused, defending yourself, or trying to fix things, their illusion remains intact. But the moment you fall silent, when you stop giving them your energy, when you start seeing through the performance, they feel the walls closing in. A narcissist's biggest fear isn't being alone. It's being seen, truly seen, without the filters, without the manipulation, without the charm. They can handle conflict. They can handle anger. They can even handle rejection. But they can't handle exposure. Because exposure means truth, and truth strips them of the one thing they crave most: control over how others perceive them. When you stop engaging in their games, you force them to face a mirror they've spent years avoiding. Your calm becomes their chaos. Your silence exposes their lies louder than any argument ever could. That's why they often leave before the unmasking happens. It's not strength, it's self-preservation. They sense your awareness growing. They see that you no longer respond to their emotional hooks, and that realization terrifies them. They know what comes next: questions, accountability, and consequences. Rather than risk being exposed, rather than risk losing their audience, they run. But before they do, they'll twist the story. They'll make it look like you were the problem, that you changed, that you became distant. It's all part of their escape plan, to protect their image and avoid facing themselves. And yet, even after they leave, your silence continues to haunt them. Because deep down, they know you hold the truth. You've seen behind the curtain. You've seen the cracks in their confidence and the desperation behind their charm. You were supposed to be another admirer, another battery, not the person who could read their soul. That's why your calm scares them more than your anger ever could. Anger means they still have power. Silence means they don't. So if you've ever wondered why they disappeared just when you started understanding what was really happening, this is why. They didn't leave because they found better. They left because they were losing control. They feared that you might expose them, not just to others, but to themselves. And that kind of truth is something a narcissist will do anything to escape.
The high they chase is not love, it's addiction. Every narcissist lives in pursuit of that first rush, that intoxicating wave of attention, admiration, and control that makes them feel alive. On the surface, it might look like excitement for a new relationship or opportunity, but underneath, it's something far darker, a desperate attempt to fill an internal void that never stays full. They feed on energy, on emotional intensity, on the reactions of others. New admiration gives them a quick ego rush, but it fades fast. What they crave is not connection, but control. At the beginning of every relationship, they experience what feels like euphoria. The new supply is bright, fresh, full of admiration. They hang on every word, laugh at every joke, and feed every ounce of the narcissist's fragile sense of self-worth. It feels like oxygen to someone who's been gasping for validation. The narcissist will say all the right things, mirror all the right emotions, and create a fantasy so perfect that even they start to believe it. This is their high, that temporary illusion of power, importance, and love. But just like any addiction, it doesn't last. Once the initial rush fades, the emptiness returns, the same emptiness that's been haunting them their entire lives. The narcissist can't sustain emotional depth because it requires vulnerability, something they fear more than anything. To be truly connected, you have to be authentic. You have to admit flaws, face pain, and let someone see who you really are. But a narcissist's entire identity is built on avoiding that. They live behind masks, constantly shifting personas to maintain control and avoid rejection. So when the high begins to fade, when the new supply stops giving constant praise or starts expecting real emotional intimacy, the narcissist starts to feel restless, bored, even resentful. This is where the cycle begins again. The craving, the withdrawal, the hunt. It's the same pattern every time. They idealize, they devalue, they discard. And each stage serves a purpose in maintaining their addiction to power. The idealization phase is their hit, the euphoria of being adored. The devaluation phase is when they start to feel the come down. The high is wearing off, and now they need to push, provoke, and manipulate to feel alive again. And finally, the discard phase is when they throw away the old source of supply and chase the next one, desperate to feel that rush once more. What makes this cycle so destructive is that it's not just emotional, it's physiological. Studies on narcissism and addiction show that the same brain pathways involved in substance abuse light up when narcissists receive admiration or validation. They are literally wired to crave attention like a drug. The dopamine spikes, the brain floods with pleasure, but then it crashes, and that's when the craving returns even stronger. They don't want peace, they want stimulation. And because peace feels like emptiness to them, they keep creating drama, chaos, and emotional highs to avoid facing the silence inside themselves. For the narcissist, control is the most potent drug of all. When they can control how you feel, they feel powerful. Your laughter, your tears, your confusion, all of it feeds their ego. They measure their worth through how deeply they can affect you. That's why they provoke, manipulate, and play emotional games. They want to see how far they can push you, how much of yourself you will sacrifice to keep the relationship alive. To them, your emotional response is proof that they matter. The more you react, the more significant they feel. But what happens when you stop reacting? When you stop feeding the addiction? That's when the withdrawal hits. Without your attention, without your emotional energy, the narcissist feels empty, restless, and angry. It's like an addict being cut off from their supply. They'll try every trick, love bombing, guilt tripping, provoking, just to get a reaction, any reaction, because even negative attention is better than none. Indifference to them is unbearable. It forces them to confront the truth they've been running from, that their sense of worth depends entirely on the energy of others. This is why narcissists never find peace, no matter how many people they cycle through. Each new fix only lasts for a short while.
The faces change, the names change, but the void inside them stays the same. They keep chasing new highs, new sources of admiration, new people to control. But every time, the emptiness grows deeper. The thrill of being adored fades faster, the cycle spins quicker, and the destruction they leave behind gets worse. Behind that confident exterior lies a constant craving for validation. They can't stop chasing it because without it, they feel like nothing. Their sense of identity depends on being admired. That's why they even check if you're watching. They stalk your social media, ask mutual friends about you, or drop subtle hints to see if you still care. They don't want reconciliation. They want reassurance. They want to know they still have space in your mind, that their name still holds power. It's another hit of the same drug. But the real tragedy of the narcissist is that they can never truly feel the love they crave. They can imitate it, they can perform it, but they can't internalize it. Genuine love requires empathy, the ability to feel and understand another person's emotions, and that's something they lost long ago. Their inner world is a desert of unhealed wounds and suppressed shame. So they build their sense of worth from the outside in, constantly needing others to tell them who they are. The high they chase isn't happiness, it's a temporary escape from self-hate. And for you, the person who once gave them everything, understanding this truth is powerful. You start to realize that their leaving, their replacing, their cruelty, none of it was ever about your worth. You were never the problem. You were the supply. You were the mirror reflecting their importance. When that reflection stopped giving them what they wanted, they went searching for a new one. But what they'll never find is what they truly need: peace within themselves. In the end, their addiction is their downfall. The same chase that keeps them feeling powerful is the very thing that keeps them broken. They may appear confident, but it's an illusion built on dependence. And while they're trapped in an endless loop of seeking and losing, you have the power to step out of it. You can detach, heal, and rebuild your identity on something real, not on their approval, but on your truth. Because unlike them, you can feel deeply, love authentically, and grow beyond the pain. The high they chase will always fade, but your peace, once you reclaim it, will last.
They don't miss you. They miss how you made them feel powerful. They miss your empathy, your forgiveness, your energy, all the qualities that made you the perfect mirror for their ego. To a narcissist, love isn't about connection, it's about control. When they say they miss you, what they truly mean is that they miss the version of themselves they could be around you. They miss the admiration in your eyes, the way you always tried to understand them, the way you absorbed their chaos and turned it into calm. You were their emotional anchor, the one who steadied them, believed in them, and forgave them even when they didn't deserve it. That kind of energy is rare, and when it's gone, they feel it like a withdrawal. In the beginning, they might not even notice it. They're too busy basking in the excitement of new attention. The new supply is fresh, eager, and full of admiration, exactly what the narcissist craves. But as time passes, something starts to feel off. The new person doesn't react the same way you did. They don't give the same level of emotional depth, patience, or unconditional care. Slowly, the narcissist starts to realize that the power they once had with you isn't easy to recreate. Because you didn't just give them attention, you gave them emotional fuel. You made them feel significant in ways their new source can't. What they really miss is the dynamic, the emotional dance you unknowingly participated in. They miss how easily you forgave them after every argument, how your empathy made them feel safe even when they were the ones causing pain. They miss your emotional availability, your warmth, your tendency to see the best in them even when they showed you the worst. They miss being the center of your world. That's the high they can't replicate, not because you were perfect for them, but because you gave them something they can't give themselves:
unconditional emotional supply. When the narcissist loses someone empathetic, they lose their emotional mirror. Without that reflection, they feel small, unseen, and irrelevant. It's not that they suddenly develop love or regret. It's that they lose the feeling of significance that your presence gave them. You made them feel powerful even when they were cruel. You gave them meaning to their manipulation by reacting, by caring, by trying. That's why they might circle back later, not because they've changed, but because they miss the emotional reaction you provided. When they feel empty or forgotten, they think of you not as a person, but as a source of energy that once fed them. It's important to understand that this missing isn't the same as missing someone out of love or genuine remorse. A narcissist doesn't reminisce about shared moments or feel nostalgic about your connection. They remember the effect you had on them. They remember how powerful they felt when they could make you cry and then make you smile again. They remember how easy it was to regain your trust, how predictable your compassion was. To them, that's control, and control feels like safety. So when that control is gone, they feel exposed. They might even reach out pretending to miss you, but their true motive is always the same: to regain that sense of power, to see if they still have access to your energy. The irony is, while they may miss your empathy, they also despise it. Your light reminds them of everything they're not: kind, grounded, self-aware, and capable of love. They envy the emotional strength you have because it's something they can't manufacture. They mimic it, they fake it, but they can never sustain it. So rather than confronting that truth, they seek to drain it from others. You were a source of that warmth, a light they could stand in without ever having to create their own. What they really never admit, even to themselves, is that losing you was the beginning of their downfall. They may appear to move on, but deep inside, they feel that void, not because they loved you, but because your energy once kept their emptiness quiet. You were their emotional regulator, their mirror, their power source. And now, without that steady flow of empathy and forgiveness, they are forced to face the hollowness within. They don't miss your laughter. They miss how your laughter made them feel admired. They don't miss your love. They miss how your love made them feel important. They don't miss your kindness. They miss how your kindness excused their cruelty. What they miss most of all is not you. It's the version of themselves they got to be through you. You made them feel special, human, worthy, and now without you, that illusion fades. So when you find yourself wondering if they think about you, remember this: yes, they probably do, but not in the way you think. They remember the feeling, not the person. And that's the saddest truth about the narcissist. They will spend their lives chasing what they once felt in your presence, never realizing it wasn't something you gave them to own. It was something they took and lost because they never knew how to nurture it. You were never the one they truly wanted to lose. You were the one they could never truly keep.
The same charm, the same manipulation, it's all on repeat. The new person will eventually see the same mask fall. Every narcissist's story unfolds in predictable cycles: idealize, devalue, discard, and repeat. The faces may change, but the script never does. When they move on to someone new, it's easy to believe they finally changed, that maybe this time they've found happiness. But the truth is far darker. The new supply isn't their happily ever after. They're simply the next chapter in the same toxic play, a temporary audience for the narcissist's performance. At first, everything feels perfect for the new supply. The narcissist showers them with affection, compliments, and attention. They become everything the new person ever wanted: attentive, charming, and magnetic.
This is the love bombing phase, and it's designed to make the new target feel chosen, special, and irreplaceable. The narcissist studies them carefully, mirroring their dreams, fears, and values to create the illusion of a soulmate connection. They become exactly what the new person needs, not out of love, but out of strategy. Because admiration is their oxygen, and they'll do whatever it takes to secure it. But the mask always cracks. It starts small, a sarcastic remark disguised as a joke, a silent treatment that leaves the new partner confused, subtle control hidden under concern. The same red flags that once appeared in your relationship begin to surface. The same cold stares, the same gaslighting, the same emotional highs and lows. It all returns because the narcissist's behavior isn't random. It's their identity. No matter how good the new supply is, they will eventually fail to feed the narcissist's insatiable ego the way they expect. That's when the devaluation begins. The narcissist starts comparing them to others, withholding affection, twisting words, and creating chaos just to feel powerful again. The once loving partner becomes the problem, accused of being ungrateful, dramatic, or too sensitive. Sound familiar? That's because the narcissist relationships are never about love or growth. They're about dominance and validation. Once the new supply stops providing that constant emotional fuel, they become disposable. Behind the illusion of their perfect new life, the same emotional destruction quietly unfolds. The narcissist's patterns follow them wherever they go. They might look happy in pictures, post smiling selfies, or flaunt their new partner to provoke jealousy. But beneath that mask lies the same emptiness. The new supply has no idea that they're being set up for the same heartbreak, confusion, and emotional exhaustion you once endured. They're being fed the same lies, wrapped in different words. Eventually, the new person will start to question things. They'll feel the same anxiety you once did, wondering why they're always walking on eggshells, why apologies never seem to fix anything, why the person who once adored them now seems cold and distant. They'll try harder, give more, explain more, and the narcissist will feed off that effort until it no longer satisfies them. Then the cycle resets. And here's the hidden truth. The narcissist needs their relationships to fail. Failure feeds their victim narrative. It allows them to say, "See, everyone leaves me," or "No one ever understands me." This self-pity becomes their shield, a way to avoid accountability and continue the pattern. Deep down, they don't want love. They want control. Love would require vulnerability, empathy, and self-reflection, things they've spent their entire lives avoiding. So when the narcissist discards the new supply, or when the new partner finally walks away, it's not because the connection was different, it's because it was identical. The same story, same manipulation, same ending. Only the name and face changed. The narcissist might return to you, not out of regret, but because their new source ran dry. They'll say things like, "I've changed," or "They never understood me like you did." But you must remember, they're not coming back for love, they're coming back for energy. The same energy that kept them afloat before, the same energy they lost when they lost control over you. Meanwhile, the new supply begins their own journey of confusion and pain. They'll soon realize that the version of the narcissist they fell in love with never existed. It was an act, a reflection of what they wanted to see. They'll start questioning their sanity, wondering why someone so loving could become so cruel. And just like you once did, they'll discover that they were never loved for who they are, but for how much they could give. This is why the new supply always fails. Not because they're weak, but because no one can win in a relationship built on illusion. The narcissist's love is conditional, their empathy is fake, and their admiration is fleeting. Once the thrill fades, all that's left is their inner void, and they'll blame the new person for not filling it. So while you may feel replaced, understand this.
What the narcissist built with you, they're now rebuilding elsewhere. Not better, not deeper, just again. Their new happiness is a recycled performance destined to collapse. You were not the failure. You were the lesson they'll never learn. Because every time they run to someone new, they're trying to escape themselves, and no matter where they go, their reflection always follows. No matter how many people they chase, the emptiness follows. Because you can't fill a void with validation. Narcissists spend their lives running from one person to the next, searching for something they can't name, something that doesn't exist outside of themselves. To the world, it looks like confidence, charisma, charm, success. But behind that carefully crafted image lies a hollow core that no amount of praise, love, or admiration can ever touch. Every new relationship begins like a high. The attention feels electric. Someone new is admiring them, feeding their ego, making them feel powerful again. For a brief moment, they feel alive. But it never lasts. The moment the excitement fades, when the new person stops idealizing them, starts asking questions, or begins expecting emotional depth, that unbearable emptiness creeps back in. And rather than face it, they run. They discard the old and chase something new, believing that maybe this time it will feel different. But it never does. That's the trap of the narcissist's life. Endless motion without direction. They're constantly chasing external validation because they've never learned how to create internal peace. Their entire identity is built on how others see them, not who they truly are. They depend on admiration like oxygen, yet it's never enough. Each new supply gives a temporary rush, but the crash always comes, deeper, harder, emptier than before. And here's the painful irony. Every time they leave someone, they take more of that emptiness with them. They destroy real love in pursuit of fake admiration, yet the hole inside only widens. The love they reject is the very thing that could have healed them. But genuine love requires humility, and humility threatens their fragile ego. They can't bear to look inward because what they'd find there is the very thing they fear most: shame, insecurity, and self-hatred. So instead of healing, they project those feelings onto others. They blame, manipulate, and control to avoid accountability. It's easier to paint others as the problem than to face the truth of who they are. That's why every relationship they touch follows the same pattern. No matter how beautiful, loyal, or loving the person beside them is, it always ends the same way: drained and broken. The narcissist will say, "You changed," or "You weren't enough." But deep down, they know it's not you. It's the emptiness they carry everywhere they go. Even when they appear to be thriving, flaunting their new relationship, showing off their success, pretending to be happy, that inner void still whispers to them in the dark. It's the quiet loneliness that follows them when the phone stops buzzing, when the praise runs out, when no one is around to mirror back their false perfection. In those rare silent moments, they feel the truth pressing in, that their entire life is built on illusion. The narcissist's greatest punishment isn't losing others. It's never truly finding themselves. They spend years crafting an image so flawless that they forget there's a human being underneath it, desperate for real love, but too afraid to earn it. Their relationships fail not because others are unworthy, but because emptiness cannot nurture connection. It only consumes it. You see, love is about giving, vulnerability, patience, growth. But the narcissist only knows how to take. They drain others to fill themselves, only to realize the void grows hungrier with every person they use. It's a hunger that can never be satisfied, Because it's not attention they need. It's healing. And healing requires truth, something they've spent their entire life running from. So when you see them with someone new, understand this. It's not happiness you're seeing, it's a performance. They're trying to silence the same loneliness that destroyed every relationship before. And deep down, they know it's only a matter of time before the cycle repeats. The narcissist's emptiness is their curse, an endless circle of wanting, taking, and losing. They will keep seeking love as long as they can control it, but never allow themselves to feel it. And that's why they can never find peace. Because peace isn't found in admiration, power, or possession. It's found in self-awareness, something they spend their entire life avoiding. So while they run in circles, endlessly trying to outrun their own emptiness, you get to break the cycle. You get to heal. You get to build a life that isn't dependent on anyone's validation. Because what they're still chasing, you've already started to find within yourself. Peace, wholeness, and freedom from their illusion.
By healing, you break the cycle. By not reacting, you become untouchable. Their game stops when you stop playing. It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But that's the truth that shatters a narcissist's illusion more than anything else. Your silence, your peace, your decision to rise above their chaos. You don't defeat a narcissist by fighting them. You defeat them by no longer feeding them. Their entire sense of power depends on your reaction. Every argument, every explanation, every tear, it's energy they absorb. It keeps them feeling relevant, powerful, and in control. But the moment you choose not to engage, not to defend yourself, not to explain, something inside them begins to collapse. Because without your reaction, they lose their audience. And without an audience, their performance means nothing. When you start healing, you're doing far more than just moving on. You're dismantling the foundation of their power. The narcissist survives on chaos. Peace starves them. They need emotional confusion to keep their control alive. And when you replace that confusion with clarity, they can't reach you anymore. You stop being a target. You stop being a source. You become someone they can no longer manipulate. And that's when they realize they've lost the only thing they truly valued: control over your mind. Healing doesn't mean pretending it didn't hurt. It means choosing not to let that pain define you anymore. It means reclaiming your story, rewriting the narrative they once controlled. Every time you focus on your growth, every time you refuse to explain yourself, every time you respond with calm instead of chaos, you take back the power they stole. And the more you heal, the more they fade. Their tactics stop working because you've learned the truth. You can't play chess with someone who's no longer sitting at the board. They might try to provoke you one last time, through guilt, blame, or sudden kindness, but you'll notice it now. You'll see the manipulation behind the mask, and instead of reacting, you'll just observe. That's how you win. Not by proving them wrong, but by showing them they no longer matter enough to disturb your peace. To a narcissist, indifference is devastation. They feed off emotional responses, whether positive or negative. So when you become emotionally neutral, when you stop giving them access to your energy, it's like cutting off their oxygen supply. They suffocate in their own emptiness. And here's the part they never expect. Your healing becomes their mirror. The calmer, stronger, and more self-aware you become, the more their weaknesses stand out. Your peace highlights their chaos. Your clarity exposes their confusion. They can't stand to see you thrive because your strength reminds them of everything they'll never be. That's why they try to pull you back, not because they miss you, but because your growth threatens the illusion they built. So when you choose to heal, understand this. You're not just healing for yourself. You're breaking a spiritual pattern that's been repeating through every person they've ever used. You're doing what they can't, facing the truth, owning the pain,
transforming it into wisdom. That's how you become untouchable. They may talk. They may try to rewrite the story. They may even pretend you never existed. But deep down they know. They know they lost control over the one thing they could never fully possess: your spirit. Your healing is not weakness, it's rebellion. It's the quiet revolution that dismantles every lie they ever told. And the beauty of it is, you don't have to do anything loud or dramatic. Just live. Live with peace, with joy, with purpose. Let your silence speak where your words once did. Let your boundaries stand where your explanations used to fall. Because nothing destroys a narcissist's illusion more than seeing the person they tried to break, standing taller, calmer, and freer than ever before. That's your power. That's your victory. Their downfall begins the moment you realize you were never trapped in their game. You were always the one holding the key.
God doesn't let deception win forever. What they used to destroy you will be what destroys their own peace. You may not see it immediately. The narcissist might look like they're thriving, happy, even victorious. But remember this: God's justice doesn't always arrive with noise. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the form of emptiness, confusion, and loss of peace. You see, when someone builds their life on lies, manipulation, and control, that foundation eventually collapses, not because you wished it, but because truth cannot coexist with deceit for long. The narcissist believes they can outsmart consequences. They think if they play the victim well enough, if they move on quickly enough, if they convince others that you were the problem, they've escaped accountability. But God sees what no one else does. He saw the sleepless nights, the prayers you whispered through tears, the way you kept your heart soft even when you were breaking. He saw what they did when no one was watching, and He's already written the ending they can't avoid. Divine justice doesn't always look like revenge, it looks like revelation. The truth begins to surface in their life in ways they can't hide from. Their relationships crumble, not because of bad luck, but because they bring the same darkness everywhere they go. The same lies they used to manipulate others start turning back on them. The charm that once fooled people starts to fade, and the image they worked so hard to maintain begins to crack. That's not karma, that's God restoring balance. And while they chase new victims, new distractions, new ways to fill the void, their soul becomes heavier. Peace leaves them because peace cannot live where truth is denied. You'll notice it. Their energy dims. Their joy becomes performative. Their smiles forced. They'll pretend everything is fine, but the spiritual truth is this: no one can outrun God's order. What they did to harm others becomes the very seed of their own suffering. Meanwhile, you begin to rise. Your spirit starts healing. Your heart begins to find peace again, and your pain transforms into wisdom. You stop needing them to face consequences because you see the divine hand working in silence. God was never punishing you. He was protecting you. He allowed their betrayal not to destroy you, but to separate you from the counterfeit love that was keeping you small. You were never losing. You were being redirected toward freedom. The narcissist's downfall doesn't come through your revenge. It comes through your peace. Because the moment you release them, the moment you hand over the situation to God and stop trying to prove anything, divine order takes over. What they meant for your harm, God uses to elevate you. What they mocked you for, your empathy, your kindness, your faith, becomes the very reason you thrive while they unravel. In the spiritual realm, justice isn't about punishment, it's about alignment. When someone lives in deception, they disconnect themselves from truth, and truth is where peace lives. The farther they run from truth, the more restless their soul becomes. That's why no matter how many people they charm, how many successes they flaunt, or how many masks they wear, their peace will always betray them. So, don't worry about what they're doing or how their story looks right now.
Just keep walking in light. Keep choosing integrity when it's hard, kindness when it's undeserved, and silence when provoked. Because every time you choose peace over retaliation, you align yourself with divine protection. God's justice doesn't rush, it arrives right on time. And when it does, you'll see that the same manipulation they used to destroy others becomes the very thing that isolates them. The same lies they spread about you will turn back and expose them. In the end, truth always wins. Light always exposes darkness. And no matter how long it takes, the scales always balance. You don't have to fight, prove, or chase. You just have to trust. Because the spiritual truth is this: God will let them taste the pain they caused, not out of cruelty, but so they finally face what they've denied all along, themselves. And when that happens, you'll realize something powerful. You didn't need them to fall to feel free. You only needed to rise.
They left thinking they won. But you were never the loss. You were the lesson. And now, you're free. That's the truth they'll never be able to face. When the narcissist walked away, they believed they had broken you, that they had proven their power one last time. They thought your silence meant defeat, that your pain meant they had control. But what they didn't realize was that their departure wasn't your ending. It was your awakening. Their rejection was the doorway to your freedom. The storm they caused forced you to rebuild, to rediscover your worth, to find peace in places they could never reach. You see, narcissists believe winning means control. They define victory by how much chaos they can cause, how deeply they can wound, how easily they can replace. But real victory isn't about control. It's about liberation. It's about walking away with your integrity intact, your soul unbroken, and your light stronger than before. You didn't just survive their manipulation, you evolved beyond it. You learned to see through the illusions, to understand that their love was never love, it was ownership disguised as affection. And once you saw that truth, their power over you dissolved. They might still tell themselves they won. They'll replay the story in their mind, painting themselves as the one who moved on, the one who had control. But deep down, they know the truth. You were the only one who saw them fully and still tried to love them. You were the only one who offered real connection, not performance. And they'll spend the rest of their lives chasing replicas of that. People who give them attention, but not depth. Admiration, but not peace. Because they lost something they'll never be able to recreate. The presence of someone genuine. Your victory isn't loud, it's spiritual. It's in the way your energy feels lighter now. It's in the way you can finally breathe without anxiety. It's in the way you no longer flinch at memories that used to break you. That's what healing looks like. Quiet power. Peace that doesn't need to prove itself. You stopped needing closure because you realized you are the closure. You no longer crave their apology because your growth became the apology they could never give. One day they'll look at you from afar, maybe through mutual friends, maybe through silence, and they'll see what they lost. Not because you want them to, but because truth always reveals itself. They'll see a version of you they could never destroy, strong, wise, calm, and free. And in that moment, the game they once played so confidently will feel meaningless. Because for all their attempts to win, they ended up losing the one thing they could never manipulate: your spirit. The real victory isn't about revenge. It's about transformation. You didn't need them to fall. You just needed to rise. You outgrew the person who needed their approval. You outgrew the version of yourself that tolerated confusion and chaos in the name of love. You became your own peace, your own closure, Your own validation. That's something they'll never understand, because they still depend on others to feel whole, while you've learned to stand complete on your own. So let them think they won. Let them play their games, chase new faces, and hide behind new masks. You're already living in a different reality, one where peace is power, and love is no longer a battlefield. The truth is, they didn't destroy you, they delivered you. Their leaving was the final act that set your soul free from the illusion of who you thought you needed to be. You didn't lose them, you released them. And in doing so, you gained everything they could never offer: clarity, healing, and the kind of freedom that doesn't require anyone's permission. That's the real victory, walking away not bitter, but better. Standing in your truth with no need for revenge. Knowing that while they tried to break you, they actually helped you build the strongest version of yourself. You were never the loss, you were the awakening. And now, you're free.